Welcome to the Secrets Women Keep podcast. I am your secret keeper and confidant, Lauren White. I'm a qualified counsellor and sexologist, facilitator of all things turn on, author of Permission, and a witty, highly intuitive lounge room dancing introvert. I help you as an exceptional woman in entrepreneurship to see, love, and trust all the parts of yourself, especially the unseen. Let's pull back the curtain, light the candelabra, and lift the veil. These are the secrets women keep. Hello, and welcome to the Secrets Women Keep. I am your host and confidant, Lauren White, and today we have a truly cosmic guest. Her name is Angharad Sage. Angarad is a Galactic Money Mentor. As a serial entrepreneur from a very early age, by the time she was 27, she'd built 3 different brick-and-mortar businesses to 6 figures, and in 2019 founded her online presence as a coach and mentor to spiritual entrepreneurs. Angharad Sage Limited is now a multiple 7-figure brand that teaches people to master their intuition and hold their duality in order to precipitate their desires into their 3D reality. She is a homeschooling, conscious parenting mama to her 2 young children and currently resides in New Zealand with her partner, Luke. Angarad, welcome to the Secrets Women Keep.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited for our cosmic conversation.
I'm really excited too. And I'm going to get right in and get deep and dirty. I have to tell you how I first came across you, if you're open to hearing it. Because I think these stories are always they're always a little bit, it's not that wild, but it's not the wildest story. But I just had to say, I think you'll like this. So I reached out. I have my copywriter, Alyssa Martin, who's been on the podcast, is also incredibly intuitive and does excellent energy clearing. She just has a gift. She found out later on in life she's got a gift for it. And I swear I messaged her one day and said, what wealthy women do you follow? What abundant as fuck wealthy women do you follow? And she only gave me your name. And immediately I started following you on Instagram. So I want to say maybe like a year ago. And I was just like, oh my God, thank God I found one of my homes. Thank you. I was seeing champagne. I was seeing bubble bars. I was seeing, I've just taken 3 days off Instagram and I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm just going, I need more of this in my life. And I imagine when some women aren't quite open to seeing the level of abundance you've cracked open to in such a short amount of time, that would create a sense of constriction. And I'm so grateful whatever I've done up until that moment of following you was just like, nah, need more, want more of this in my life, want to see the magic unfolding. And this is very aspirational to me. So thank you for simply just showing us pleasure.
You are so welcome. You are so welcome. And I love how the universe cosmically brings us all together. And, just right off the bat about the pleasure, it's a life that I always wanted to live, but from my childhood, which we may get into or may not, but, I was raised very masculine. And so to show that side of me in the beginning was very weird. Yeah. And now I fully embrace my feminine. It's the biggest permission piece for both sides of the camp, right? Whether we're trying to get ourselves out of our masculine into our feminine, more to enjoyment and to pleasure and to peace and to presence, right? Or whether we are also there and we also want to have the driven side, because you get to have both. It's not just one or the other. So yeah.
Yeah, we get to have both. And I think the word both is so simplistic that people overlook it. And the word and both, both. You don't have to choose between either. You can embrace both and exalt both of them and revere both of them for the qualities that allow you more cataclysmic growth. That's a nice little tongue tire. Speaking of cataclysmic growth, you have been through incredible growth in 3 years. And when I see your like when you do this is 2019 and this is 2020 and this is 2021 and this is now, I just get so turned on to just witness a woman in 1,000 days expand, evolve. The way that you look has changed, the way that you speak has changed, but it's still you and your essence. Can you speak into what it's been like to change so much and welcome in so much abundance in the form of wealth and notoriety and really honing your expertise? What's that been like on a very human level to go through that?
Yeah. Best question. Okay. So, one of the things that I now understand, I heard it way back when, 5 years ago or so, when I heard about personal development and began to get into it, from the realm that we know of or that's spoken about a lot, that it's an inside job and then it becomes an outside job, right? And I heard people speak about that and I was like, maybe it won't work. It works, but so when I look back on the reflection, those even before I even came online, 3 years ago, literally came online. The 2 or 3 years before that was the real dirty work, like the real inside job. And it was, by the time I came online, I had already attuned my mind and my energy field to a wealthy woman. I hadn't really got to where I am now. Like that was something that I learned on the journey of expanding that and holding more wealth and precipitating more into my 3D reality, right? But the reality is that from a vibrational sense, our mind and our energetic field, so that nothing you can see yet actually happens well before it precipitates into our 3D reality. So it's, this is the reason why people speak about courage and mindset and really tapping into your desires, because that's all the stuff that people don't see unless you choose to share it like I do. But no one sees, like it feels like the shadow work or the dirty work or the inside job, right? Yep. All of it happens before it precipitates. So the last 3 years has been massive exponential outward growth that I have shared with the world, right? But the journey started a long time ago.
Yeah.
So for those of us, or for your listeners that have been or in that, that dirty place, that messy, that choppy, that duality, that learning everything, right? And filtering through all parts of ourselves, it's the best is yet to come, quite literally, the best is yet to come. So it's felt messy and cosmic and literally an earth being exploded and expanded and being created. It's just, I wouldn't have it any other way, but it's a lot.
Yes. So for everyone listening, we really are marinating in the highlight reel right now. And what you're acknowledging, which we all need to acknowledge, is everything that leads up to that. Every single action that you took to know yourself and excavate and really maybe even befriend the shadow side, what was inside of you and where you'd come from and where you wanted to go. That is so much of it. And it's not publicized and it's not necessarily seen. But what we're seeing now is the beautiful results that come from that bravery that's required to do that level of introspection.
Absolutely. And we all have trauma, we all have things that we've been through. And, I totally know and believe with every ounce of my being that I chose to come to be in a really traumatic first 25 years of my life. It was an absolute shitstorm in order for me to realize and for me to take my creative power into my hand, or one of the things that looks is my self-ordained regal cloak. That's what it kind of feels like now. The refined version is it's self-ordained, right? It's you choose this.
Self-ordained is is doing something. I'm still on self-ordained. I'm please continue.
Yes, your self-ordained given right for you to choose that you are the creator of whatever universe you want to partake in, precipitate in, engage in, create, seek out in the world. Oh, goosebumps. It's an inside job. It's always an inside job. And you have to, at some point in your life, pick up your staff, pick up your cloak, whatever it is, and ordain yourself as worthy of creating.
Oof. Speaking my language. Worthy of creating. Where does power, and to give a little bit of context to listeners, a little bit of background, Angarad is an expert in human design. And if you don't know your human design, go and find out. It is illuminating. Where does authority and power fit into that worthiness of creating? Is there, am I right in saying there's a weave there, there's a connection? Can you expand upon how that fits into what you just said about self-ordaining?
Absolutely. So essentially within human design, your authority is the way you make a decision, right? It's in human design speak, or the way I describe it is, it's your direct channel to your intuition, right? It feels like a bridge. So for me, I was a very psychically activated child my whole entire life. And when I found human design, it felt like finally a 3D framework that could explain how to connect with your intuition so I could explain to other people, right? Because yes. I've always had this connection with, I'm a spinnacle authority. I always understood it right from birth, but a lot of people don't understand it, right? And they need it's like a 3D framework to be able to explain your soul, or be able to communicate with your soul and find out like what's really happening. And so, with your authority, everyone has a type of authority. And with your authority, like it is a really beautiful place in order for you to be like, well, because your human can really get behind it and be like, this is what my soul is saying. So this can give you confidence that this is your authority to create your life, that this is your direct line to your soul, to your higher self, to your guides, to, the universe, to God, whatever label or all of the above that feels good to you. This is literally the direct channel between your 3D and that being or God or the universe telling you, being like, yes, bitch, you get to have this. Yeah. You get to go on the holiday. You get to go for a bath at 11 a.m. Remember the first time I did that at 11 a.m. I felt like it was so wrong, right? And my authority was like, yes. And I was like, you know what? Yes, I'm fucking doing this. This is my authority. I get to do this.
I love it. The power of the simple actions can feel so edgy. Like there's no such thing as more adrenaline equals more edgy. It can be something as feminine, because feminine can be very edgy when we've been conditioned to the masculine ways and prioritizing execution and delivering outcomes and all of the rest. It can be as edgy as, I'm having a bath at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday, and like this is what I desire and this is what I want right now. And for the fact that I desire it, it is completely valid.
Exactly. Just because you desire it is enough.
Yeah.
Simple as that. It took me a long time to get my human behind that.
Yes.
But the bath was a huge key. Honestly, the bath at 11 a.m., the very first time I had a bath at 11 a.m. And then a few weeks later, I went to the bath at 8 a.m. and it was still an edge. Right? Yeah.
It doesn't end at 11 a.m. It doesn't. Yeah. And do you feel, when it comes to meeting edges, I've been feeling a lot into edges again. It's like one of those aspects of the work that really gets my attention for a while, and then other things get my attention, then it comes back. Right now, I'm just wondering, do you feel when it comes to meeting edges, you get or is it your authority that gives you the idea for meeting an edge like that? Like, this is what I desire right now. Is there any, if you listen to your authority and follow through with the action, because one of your actions that you could have taken was to not have the bath, using that as an example. Is there, when you listen to your authority, is there any force involved, or is it, or it should it just feel like a natural extension, the next best thing to do?
Good question. No, it doesn't feel like the next best thing to do, not until your human is behind it. So the best way I describe it is this. So because your intuition or your authority, right, is basically something outside of you. It's really part of you, but still for the 3D framework, it doesn't feel normal. it feels crazy. A lot of the stuff, going for a bath, hiring a mentor, going for a solo holiday, you know what I mean? Going to bed and leaving all the housework, like investing this, dropping this thing, doing a sale, whatever it is, it feels scary. It feels like an edge, right? So, and it's meant to be like that until the way I had a lot of battle with my mind, which is the reason I have an undefined head center and ajna. So I took on a lot of ideas from other people and was very, very conditioned. But, you know, when I first came across the coaching world, it was actually around mindset, and mindset changed the game for me because I'd never heard of mindset. The only thing I'd ever heard of is think positively. My mother used to say that, and I wanted to punch her in the face because I was very depressed, and I was like, thinking positively ain't gonna fix my shit, bitch. Like I was like,
not gonna come from that route. Definitely not.
Like just not going to anyway. So that's what I thought mindset was. So when I learned what mindset actually was in my mid-20s, I was like, oh, this actually, so it changed the game for me, right? So anyway, but our body knows, like our intuition knows, and our body, like inside our body, our energetic body, right, knows before our human knows. It knows before our mind knows. It knows before it's precipitated, right? And so when we go to make decisions based on our authority, 9 times out of 10, it feels crazy. It feels scary. It feels like an edge. But the one thing that we have on our side is our brain is the most sophisticated computer on the planet. Right? It has so many algorithms and so many things constantly going on that what happens is time and time and time again, when we make decisions with our authority and your strategy as well, but still, when you make the decisions based on your specific, you know, I call it like your sequence for aligned decisions, right? Within your human design, everyone's a little bit different. But when you do it like that, when you go through that process and make the decision, your mind's always like, whoa. But eventually, when you see it play out later on and things precipitate, after the bath, you feel amazing. After you invest in the mentor, 12 months later, you make $1 million, like whatever it is, right? That things precipitate. Eventually, your human brain, the algorithm begins to recalculate the probability of this working out, going the way you want it to. So on the journey, you still have the fear. It still feels weird, but your human can get behind it more, is the way I describe it.
That is the most succinct, beautiful, like explanation of that I've ever heard. Like that. Listen to that one again if it hasn't landed the first time. I swear I know this to be, and I'm with you on that. I could not articulate it in those words. So thank you for that gift. But you are 100% right. That has been my lived experience. You're still taking the risks, and you're still still meeting the edges. Where your brain goes is it starts to move things from being probable to being inevitable because you're having more experiences of inevitability. Is that word too strong, or is that?
I think coupled with other spiritual, like for me now, it feels inevitable. That's not necessarily just because of that. I also think it's because of the quantum realm that I play in, as well as like the law of assumption. So, you know, and knowing just truly how much of a powerful creators we are. And I've proven to my human that I am, that now when it's still going to be natural. We're still playing in this 3D realm, right? Our human 3D body is always still going to operate within the 3D framework of this earth, right? Which means we are still going to experience fear. We are going to still be humans, which is the fucking point of being here to begin with, right? But it's like a constant reminder time and time and time again, this 3D earth is giving us an opportunity to be reminded every time of, oh, that's right, you can create when you choose to.
Yes, when you choose to, not out of, well, what's the option of not choosing to? What happens? What's on the other side of that if we're not choosing to create?
We still create. It's just we didn't consciously choose what we're creating. It's a subconscious thing, right? Which is in our conditioning and or our fears and or, you know, trying to, my guide said to me one time, oh my God, I'm going to try not crack up laughing because it's so horrible, but so true. So they said to me one day, have you ever noticed that the very act of you trying to not become someone, you become them? And I was like, yeah, I became my mother and I didn't want to, not the parts of my mother that I didn't like, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
Like no matter what, you can try and run away from something, but if it's in your coding, like it's still going to precipitate, right? So we're, instead of consciously creating what we desire, right? This head-heart coherence, we actually then just create from our programming or from our subconscious or from our fears or from our conditioning, rather than what it is that we say we actually want.
Yes. Yep. Can you lead us into what duality is? Because it's a word that I think people will understand more from their headspace, but not so much from what that means within our bodies and our energy system. So can you share a brief take on duality and why
Absolutely.
we need to know about that?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So this is something that I will continue to develop words around, but after quite a few years of honestly being a duality priestess, like literally sitting in and breathing it and understanding it, I can spit out this knowledge. It's always going to grow and evolve, but this is my current understanding, human word form. So, when I used to be a baker, right? I used to be, one of the businesses I built was a wedding cake business.
Wow. Yeah.
Crazy. And food blogger. Like, it's kind of how I started my online thing. But anyway, you need the acid in you need the arising agents scientifically to make a cake rise, right? You need, in order to be able to birth a child, it needs to go through the birth canal, right? In order to be able to, some would say, earn money, you have to go and work, right? Or, and like with, what's it called? Electricity, that's the one. You have the positive and the negative in the cycle, right? And that, batteries, magnets, there's always a positive and negative. When you literally, the creation is not just fluffy manifestations.
Yes.
It's not just pretty journaling and self-pleasure and going to the hairdressers and getting massages. If we're trying, the one thing my guide said to me like a couple of years ago is, the very act of you trying to raise your frequency is the reason why you can't, because you are assuming that you aren't that already. You aren't already a higher vibration, right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
And so we so many people in the spiritual world and the manifesting world and just a lot of us want to get the good feeling things, want to experience all the amazing things and all the different things. But what they're doing is they're discrediting this whole beautiful 3D matrix that this earth has created for us. You can't run, like, it's like, a frog can't just be like, oh, how do I become more of a frog? It's like, well, you are a manifester, you are creating, you are a dualistic co-creative power, but it's not because you're trying to be it, right? The best way you can create is by being in both realms. It's by raising your vibration, by doing the things, by consciously choosing what you want, but also appreciating Mother Nature, like literally the gravity of this earth, right? Because the raising your vibration feels very much esoteric, right? Like getting rid of my human and astral projecting and going into other dimensions and being a fifth dimension. It always feels like trying to leave this body, right? Yeah. But when you think about it, I have goosebumps. All the trauma that you've been through in your life, all the shit, all of the stuff that happened in your childhood or with ex-partners or with bosses or these horrible things that ever happened to you. And you really wanted someone to hold you and cradle you. And this is what we really wanted as a child, right? And our deepest core, we wanted someone to hold us and to be like, I'm here. I will never leave you. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter what you go through, I will always be here. And you want that cradling, right? Gravity has always done that to you. Mother Nature has never left you. She is cradling you on this earth, and yet everyone just wants to leave her. Like, she is the most delicious support that we could ever have. And so therefore the duality, the hard things that we go through, right? The difficult things, the emotions, the car crashes or whatever it is that happens on this 3D plane, it isn't to be disregarded. It is actually needed for creation, right? Like, creation happens when a positive and negative charge spins around one another and creates momentum, and eventually it gets hotter and faster and spinner, something precipitates. You need both. You need to be in both all of the time and stop disregarding one or the other?
I'm just like the gravity piece. Sorry, I'm really speechless, but right now I am, because you've just added another layer for me around the simplicity of what is already here and what we already have evidence of in regards to support, when we can, especially as entrepreneurs, learning about how influential our energy is and our quantum leaps are in our business and all the rest of it. And that can really take us up and away from that baseline truth and that evidence that is always there and always will be there. So thank you. That was such a fucking gift, what you just shared.
You're so welcome. Can I add something else in?
Please.
So with the all the stuff, all of that work, right? The raising and the meditating, all those things, this is very much top chakra stuff, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, when we want to manifest into our 3D reality, we actually need to be able to bring all of that down into our lower chakras, which is our more 3D chakras. So while we're sitting up here being like, hallelujah, I'm a manifesting bitch. Like it's not, you have to be able to bring it down.
Yes.
Some of us just bring it to our heart. It has to go all the way down to your lower chakras. That's when you will be able to manifest and precipitate into the 3D reality, because you're taking all the energy and everything you've created and all that build up, right? Like that positive, negative, all that steam and that smoke and that pressure and that peace and everything, and bring it all the way down into your 3D chakras and hold it. That's when you can manifest into this 3D reality.
Yes. Yeah, all the way down to your root, which includes your anus, which is a wonderful portal of like expansion and like I remember years ago I did breath work through my anus when I was studying a certificate of sexological body work, and it was just so profound, getting into that part that is historically seen as dirty, but is an integral part of our root and our obviously our, you know, on a physical level, our guts and all the rest of it, but is so avoided when people talk about their root. They're like, your feet and your legs, and it's like, what about your anus? Like what about that part of your body that you inevitably connect with in some way, shape or form every single day, and bringing everything down into that. And I think I just wanted to add that piece in about the root being way more. And I'm not sure if you've got anything to add to that, but like that acknowledgement of our genitals, that acknowledgement of like those primal impulses that we have as humans, and that natural urge that we have through our anus and through our genitals and through our pelvis. It's so much more than sitting on your bottom or like having your feet on the earth. Like really, root work has a shadow side to it, and embrace that shadow, and it's more pleasurable and it's more grounded and absolutely integrated.
Yeah, and you know, I've done a lot of work with the womb space as well, like the chakra, you know, and I haven't done so much with the root, but that's really freaking beautiful and enlightening. But like our bottom, see the thing is, we store most of our trauma in our bottom chakras, in our 3D chakras, right? Yes. So in this work of bringing, you know, heaven to earth, we have to, or rather part of the work is clearing those chakras and the trauma we've physically and energetically held there, right? Shift so that we can bring this energy down in, because, you know, it's just like junked up, you know, it's just junked up with all this other junk. And so when we can clear it, that's when we can precipitate more as well. And just like you're sharing about the root chakra, like we all know this, right? If any of you have done chakra work, like it completely and utterly changes the way you feel physically in your body, and how you can be in touch with your body, and then how you then present to the world and what you can manifest and precipitate and all the things. So very integral work. Yes.
Is Eros energy weaved throughout your work? Is any like sexual is sexuality, or if it's not, have you noticed any changes within yourself around your quantum leaps and your growth, particularly in the last 3 years? Like, has there been any shifts organic shifts in your Eros energy?
So I'm not really familiar with Eros label. Do you want to break that down for me a tiny bit?
Yeah, sure. I define your Eros as your sensuality, your sexuality, your curiosity, your playfulness. It really is that embodied expression of what happens when the two branches of our nervous system meet and go into a flow state. It's like, it's juicy, it's lush, it really can be like the wet, like if there was an emoji for it, it would be the wet emoji. Yeah, it's like that real, I mean, really it's got a lot of sexual, erotic threads to it, but that's not all that it is. And that's why I reference the playfulness and the curiosity as well. And have you noticed a shift in your sacral energy, if you want to call it that? Have you noticed a shift in that in the last 3 years since you've been, and only what you're happy to share? Have there been any shifts for you in terms of receiving more money and circulating wealth? Has that corresponded with your sacral energy?
Absolutely. So I haven't heard it labeled that before with that language, but my language would be like feminine energy. Yep. So absolutely, like it changed, feminine, sensual, sexual, all the things, receiving, like absolutely game changer. And it's been the most beautiful thing to not only experience, because the actual experience of it is amazing, right? But also because Tony Robbins talks about the art of fulfillment. It's feminine energy. You cannot have fulfillment without having feminine energy, without having, what you're calling Eros, right? You cannot have fulfillment, because this brings you into the present now moment. It stops you looking into the past, stops you looking into the future, and plants you in this exact now moment. You can't be fulfilled while you're looking at the future or while you're staring at the past.
Yes.
It simply cannot happen. And so absolutely it changed the whole. I had a lot of sexual trauma as well, which I healed through my womb space, through this work. There's a lot of guarding. There was a lot of always being in a lot of toxic masculine energy, to be quite honest. And, I come across, I kind of struggle with this. People tell me that I come across very feminine online. I feel very driven and very feminine at the same time. This is also to do with my astrology. I'm not sure if you're familiar with astrology or not, but I'm a Capricorn rising and sun, and I have a huge conglomeration of Capricorn, which is very driven, very masculine, very like, I'm going to make it fucking happen. Dark sense of humor, weird sense of humor.
Yeah.
So when people online find me and love my sense of humor, I'm like, oh, thank you. I was like, oh, you love my weird sense of humor. Thank you so much. But yes, definitely it changed the absolute game for me, because I didn't know how to be in the now. And it definitely, receiving money is a feminine energy. So, we can do all of this work, all this strategy, build all these businesses, do all these things. But, I call it cock blocking. We cock block the energy.
Yeah, me too.
Because we're in our masculine, right? So to drop back into our feminine, so much more can flow to us. So yeah, it's beautiful.
Yum. I love this. This is going down in history as like one of my top 5 podcasts already, and we haven't even finished yet. I have a question. God, these are my favorite conversations. I have a question about manifestors. So you are a manifestor in human design. I work with a couple of manifestors as clients, and I was wondering, seeing what you do, obviously there's more to it because of your astrology and your birth chart, and there are nuances within human design. You can't just from what I understand, you can't just lump a group of people together and say you're all the same, because there are nuances. But seeing how you release new offers relatively quickly, what is what it looks like from the outside, am I then able to direct my manifestor clients to do things in a similar way to you, or is there nuance there? And should I be careful about making sweeping suggestions for different human design profiles?
Great question. Well, the key thing is, if a manifestor is not creating, they're dying.
Wow.
I think it's for all of us, to be honest.
Yeah.
For every single design type, but in particular, this sentence is very, very strong for manifestor. It doesn't have to just be with offers, though. It can be with creating a website. It can be creating stuff like we homeschool. So I create all of the time, like different things for our kids and, creating like moving different things around a house and creating wealth in other areas. It's not always just about creating a course or a mastermind or whatever, because we're so multifaceted, right? And I have a lot. I live a lot of life all at once, as well as the CEO of this massive company, right? The nuance with a manifestor is them realizing what an urge is, which is where energy comes from, and whether we're meant to see it through. This is one of the biggest things that manifestors can struggle with, is they say we're not designed to complete a project, we're designed to initiate it and other people to pick up the baton and complete it.
Oh, this is okay. Yeah. Parts are starting to fall into place now for the clients I'm thinking of. Okay.
So they can struggle to finish a project. Yep. I have a lot of Capricorn, very driven energy. So, and my root defined. So that's a chakra in my specific human design chart. So I have a bit that helps me carry through. But for a manifestor, it's really important for them to get that nuance with their authority and looking back in hindsight, gaining the wisdom from the hindsight, right? Learning the lessons from the hindsight in order to see if it is something that they actually want to put out, especially with a business, like strategically, consistency is really important. So launching something and then 3 days later being like, I'm not doing that anymore, can give people a bit of the fight or flight and be like, I don't trust that person, right? And people need to know, trust us to pay us, right? So there's lots of different things that come into it, but it's the nuance within them realizing, is this an idea that I need to spout off on my Instagram and be like, hey, and just speak about a concept, right, around something it's technically a whole fucking ass course for free on Instagram or wherever they want to channel that message through to, for then someone else to be like, oh my gosh, that was my response, or that was my invitation for me to launch my mastermind about this thing, or whatever it was, right? Versus whether they actually have the energy to see the project all the way through, or the resources, or the time, or the urge to hire other people to help them see it through.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Okay, I can't wait for my manifestor clients to hear this. And because what you've just described is manifestor energy, do threads of that apply to manifesting generators? Yeah,
definitely. So you guys are generators first, but you have that manifestor like, I'm not creating, I'm freaking dying and I'm bored.
Yep. I am literally dying, and that's why I create all the fucking time. Yeah. Like if I'm, yeah.
Exactly. So with a manifesting generator, you have the most steps to follow in regards to your sequence of aligned decisions, right? So, there's quite a few steps. If you miss one, you will beat yourself up about it, and it'll be a shit show in past tense because you're like, oh, I didn't see that through and everyone judged me for it. But you also aren't, you're meant to be so multi-passionate. You're not meant to look like a generator, or even worse, a Capricorn generator, a male Capricorn generator who stayed in their career for 55 years. Like that's not your benchmark.
My worst nightmare.
Like literally not your benchmark, babe, okay? You're meant to be the floaty fairy who's like got the cake business and is the coach and is the homeschooling mum and has the baking sale and the grows the garden and is always throwing things, has all these sauces, right, flying around, like the saucer person on the plate, the stilt plate.
Yes.
Like spinning it all, right? So your nuance is having the correct plates up, firstly, but then secondly, knowing when to tend to different ones and when to let go of one, and and just accepting that you are a shit show, and that's how it's meant to be, right? It's meant to look crazy to other people, and don't dull your light, because you give everyone else, especially the manifestors, permission to just fucking go balls deep, like just do it, like just do it. Be passionate, be multi-passionate, like just never apologize for being like, no, tomorrow I'm not doing that anymore. Like,
Yeah, I never apologize, because I know it takes me on my authority energy. As soon as I say sorry, or hey, I'm about to go offline for a week, I'm just going to go, and I'm going to come back and be magnificent and not even explain or justify where the fuck I've been. I'm just going to, that is my, but for other people, I just want can you please hear what we're saying? Please don't apologize. Just go, just do the thing, and just come back and just re-emerge from behind the curtain and start doing the thing. You don't even have to do the Instagram post that says, I know a lot of you know me for doing this. And it's like, you don't even need to do that. Just give us the new thing, like surprise and delight.
The one nuance within that for a manifestor and the manifesting generator is actually informing. So it is an important piece, because otherwise people are surprised about it. But the issue that we have around informing is we have this fucked up relationship with informing, where we think informing is asking for permission or validation.
Yes, that's a word that I get tripped. That's a concept in human design I still get a little bit tripped up on.
And it's because of your trauma of you've told someone in the past and they tried to convince you out of it.
Yes.
So it's nothing. It's not designed to be like that. The informing is the way I was taught it is so you make a decision and then you inform and then you act. So you tell them before you act, but you've already made the decision. Now the nuance of that, I mean, it's a little bit different now once you've integrated, but it is a good rule of thumb initially. So you decide, then you tell, then you act. And the reason why, and so as you're telling them, you don't need anything from the person. You don't need their permission. You don't need their validation. You don't need their seal of approval. This is what you're doing. So your train still gets to leave the station, but you're saying you toot the train just before it starts moving. You know, like that's all that is required. And so, the informing piece makes things a lot smoother for the people around us, because somehow they can be totally shocked that we're going for dinner with a friend at 6 p.m. I told them 2 days ago. Like, I'm sorry, bitch. I literally told you about this. Right? So
as you can imagine, communication in our household is interesting with two manifesting generators. Just like, and he works in space. He's just like, his handle is actually Space Cadet. So it's communication about what we're doing is interesting. There's a lot of, you never told me you were doing that. No, I swear I did tell you.
Or it's like, it's pretty obvious. I mean, I go every week. Or like, I've been talking about this for so long, and finally you put me made, like, it was relatively obvious it was going to happen. They're like, I had no idea you would ever want to get your hair done. I know you're blonde, and I know you've been blonde for 10 years, but why would you go to the hairdressers? It's like, what the? So the informing stops, because somehow they can be so surprised by our decisions. So it just stops that element of surprise and, that then trying to recover from it all. So when you're asking for permission, you just inform. You toot the horn before you leave the station. That's all you're doing. You're not saying, oh, if you're late, I'll wait for 5 more minutes. It's like, I'm fucking going.
Yeah, I'm fucking going. I'm fucking doing this.
Going.
Excellent. I love that. Thank you for adding that nuance to it. That definitely resonates. I mean, for me in particular, with my partner, with my husband more so than anyone, than necessarily doing that with the public per se. But yes, thank you. A timely reminder, because we did have that conversation this morning. Women who are listening to this, who have their own business and feel like, for me as a man, Jen, when I learned that frustration was our side that was out of alignment, I was like, oh shit, I ran a business from frustration for years. And there were other elements that were contextual elements that were a part of that, like being pregnant and postpartum depression, and then being pregnant again really suddenly. And like, there was other aspects, but now I know frustration is like my cue sign. Oh my gosh, I've got to step away. I've got to do something else through my body. What, for an entrepreneur on the rise listening to this, what is it that you would love them to know about their energy and about inviting the next quantum leap in for their journey? What's something, and I recognize that this is so much bigger than this question, so I recognize that this is challenging, but what do you want them to know about themselves in order to invite that in if they want it?
So the very first thing around the not self theme, so for you it's frustration, for many gens, For manifestors, it's anger. Generators, it's frustration. Reflectors is disappointment, and projectors is bitterness, right? So depending on which design type you are, you can just go to mybodygraph.com, enter your birth details. Your birth time has to be accurate, so make sure you've got the accurate time. And it says on there, right, what your design type is and what your not self theme is. The best question that I ever asked myself and then nuanced further and further and further. But the best thing to ask yourself with your not self theme is, if this didn't exist, that I'm frustrated, angry, let's just go with frustration, that I'm frustrated about, if this did not exist, right? So if I wasn't frustrated, my baby just woke up at 2 a.m. and I'm so fucking tired, right? If that didn't exist, what's underneath it? And then so the next thing might be like, well, I mean, I've obviously not had enough sleep. I mean, what the fuck? Okay. And if that didn't exist, what's underneath it? Okay. Well, the house is a fucking bomb right now and my partner's really not picking up the slack. Okay. If that didn't exist, what's underneath it? Well, I'm actually just really annoyed that I've not had any time for myself.
Yes.
So you go back layers and layers and layers and layers and layers, and it'll always be a decision you did or didn't make for yourself, a conversation you should or should not, you did or did not want to have, right? It's always around a decision that you have or haven't made for yourself. It's not about your partner who's being a lazy person who's not tidying up. It's not about your boss who's being a dick. It's not about money. You haven't got enough money. It's not about that. You have to go under and under and under the layers to see the decision you did or didn't make for yourself. 9 times out of 10, that's what it is. And so from there, you can refine it and be like, so all of this stuff on the top, it's not that it's not valid. It's just within human design speak and within really knowing what really matters to you. It's these undercurrents that actually really matter. This, like in the sea, how there's the top currents and the really deep currents. They're the ones that actually make the whole ecosystem of the planet work, is the undercurrents. If you guys have never looked into that, there's a show on a series on Netflix called like Our Earth or something. Mind-boggling, like absolutely mind-boggling. And on one of the episodes, I watched that about the undercurrents of the sea, and I was like, holy shit. And because we're a 3D human on the 3D matrix, it's the same, just like the tree, it's the same for us, just like the tree roots is the same as our lungs, right? Just as our brain pathways are the same as the universe. When you zoom out and zoom in, it looks the same. So, everything that happens in this earth, 9 times out of 10 has some type of, well, always does actually, but has some type of relatability for our experience as a human. So because of this undercurrent of the sea, right, the undercurrent of our not self theme is something deeper within us. It wants to be unearthed, that wants to be listened to in order for us to continue on our path of creating what it is that we really want to create.
Yeah. Oh, that is such a hot note to end things on. I am going to marinate in this conversation and replay it. So many gems and so much power. Angarad, you are the thing. And I just love being a witness to all of the power and authority that you hold, and witnessing how many people are drawn to that and are most importantly drawn to it and are then going out there and doing their own thing and executing it with their own design in mind. And I just think that that's when we're most powerful as women, is when we learn something for ourselves and we step into our sovereignty and share it in a generous and boundaried way. And that's what I see you doing every single day. I am so glad that you create and that it keeps you alive, because the ripple effect of that is that other people are reminded that they are alive as well. I've loved having you on the podcast. Thank you so much. Can you, any final words, and can you share with everyone where they can find you online?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love to hang out on Instagram at Angharad Sage, which I'm sure you can, have in the show notes, because
I will. Yep. Definitely.
I have a Telegram group actually, which is linked in my bio, like on all my socials, Facebook and all the places. But I deliver free channelings in there every single day, like a voice note every single day of like something from spirit, which is a really fun thing. Just it's free to join. It's amazing. It's the tits. So yeah, those are the place to hang out with me. And thank you for having me. This has been
fun, a lot of deliciousness.
Yeah,
a lot of deliciousness. And we got It's the Tits into the episode at the end. That was one of my goals. I had to have you say It's the Tits by the end of the episode, and it came in at the final hour. And I've heard very good things about your Telegram channel, so everyone get in on that power, and that is very generous of you when you are creating so many things on such epic levels. That's very generous of you to have a channel like that. So get in on it. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.